Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you. By now you should have somehow realized what you gotta do. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. Backbeat, the word is on the street that the fire in your heart is out. I'm sure you've heard it all before, but you never really had a doubt. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. And all the roads we have to walk are winding, and all the lights that lead us there are blinding. There are many things that I'd like to say to you, but I don't know how. 'Cause maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my wonderwall. Today was gonna be the day, but they'll never throw it back to you. By now you should have somehow realized what you're not to do. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. And all the roads that lead you there were winding, and all the lights that light the way are blind. There are many things that I would like to say to you, but I don't know how. 'Cause maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my wonderwall. I said maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my wonderwall. I said maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my wonderwall. Not the waking, it's the rising. Is the grounding of a foot uncompromising. It's not the going of the lights, not the opening of the eyes. It's not the waking, it's the rising. It's not the shade, we should be past it. It's the light and its obstacle that casts it. It's the heat that drives the light. It's the fire it ignites. It's not the waking, it's the rising. It's not the song, it is the singing. It is the hearing of a human spirit ringing. It is the bringing of the line. It is the bearing of the rind. It's not the waking, it's the rising. And I cook by power power. It's not the wall, but it's behind it. The fear of fellow men is mere assignment. And everything that we're denied by keeping the divide. It's not the waking, it's the rising. Now I could cry power, power, oh, power. Nina cried power, Lennon cried power, James Brown cried power. Now I could cry power, power, power. Lord, Bieber cried power, Johnny cried power, Nina cried power. Now I could cry power. Power has been cried by those stronger than me. Straight into the face that tells you to rattle your change if you love being free. I could cry power, power, power. Power is my love when my love reaches me. James Brown cried power, Seeger cried power, Marvin cried power. Power, power. James cried power, Lennon cried power, Patty cried power, Billy power, Dylan power. God damn, it's a hard ass song to sing. That's trying to sing a black woman's song. Whew. Alrighty. I've been wondering if you remember I said that we were not meant for each other. 'Cause I don't believe in soulmates, but I won't let it get in the way. I don't mean to complicate it, there's no other way around it. We try to make one out of two, not me and you are you. What am I supposed to do? When I fall for you, I'll change my colors if I have to. If anyone is worth it, I think it's you. Baby, I die for you. When I fall for you, we'll dance like the leaves when the time is due. Forgive and forget, make room for you. Baby, I die for you. When I fall for you, for you, I'll fall for you. Yalnız yakın gözün nu, dalınca mazgın beni in you. Naminin mağin mağuninne, bugün namadın alüye. Gaumen anen dale, yalandan şancın cihane. Bayan gagi singen anase, nananele anandale isel. When I fall for you, change my colors if I have to. If anyone is worth it, I think it's you. Baby, I'll die for you. When I fall for you, we'll dance like the leaves when the time is due. Forgive and forget to make room for new. Baby, I die for you. When I fall for you, for you. When I fall for you, for you, for you, yeah. Hello and welcome everybody to the Six Pixels Under podcast. I am NS or Nerd Slayer, your host. Sorry, I'm slightly out of frame because I was moving the camera. I guess I can move it. There it goes. I'm here with some Bitcoin scams. You know what I'm saying? I'm Team Bitcoin, I guess. Man, let's get that out of the way. Okay. So after I streamed last week, I actually took a nap, which is good because your boy needs to sleep. And when I woke up, literally, I was hacked. That's that's what happened. Yeah, obviously, you guys probably know pretty much the rest of the story at this point. But that was like the beginning of it all, or whatever you want to say. And yeah, sorry if anyone understands Korean. It's not easy to speak, let alone sing. So for those that picked up on that, I appreciate it. But Korean's an awesome language, honestly. Like definitely, like, obviously I'm an English speaker, and I know a decent amount of Spanish. I would say that Korean side Spanish is like what I'm the most interested in. And I don't have like super logical reasons for it. I mean, the thing about me is that, like, and maybe most people that are super logical are this way too, but I became more of a logical person as a way to organize the fact that I was crazy. So, like, in a sense, I always felt like I was different and kind of a bit of an anomaly. And so I do feel like selling Boohoo coin, an easy way of making crypto off of geckos. Yeah. Man, they picked the perfect person to hack because it's like nobody hates that shit more than you know what I mean? But I don't even remember. So the title of the stream, Virtual World News and Why It's Important. So the thing with virtual worlds is it's a pretty broad term, but I've been finding myself using it more, especially because I feel like if I am essentially by default, which is pretty funny, but the academic in this field, then I should probably start to like speak like one sometimes. Don't get me wrong, you're never gonna get rid of the shit posting, but just in terms of when I'm talking about more like specific terms. So when we discuss types of virtual worlds, we can get into the minutia if we need to. But when we use the word or term virtual world, it gets the job done without having to. See what I'm saying? And I also like it because it takes away this weird like competition that RPGs and MMORPGs are currently having, which is almost like a proxy war because they don't fully recognize each other yet. Because many people will think they're the same thing, but then they simultaneously will form arguments against each other. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'll get comments where people are like, "Oh, well, it seems like you're more negative about MORPGs." But it's like, well, just think about it. MORPGs are more popular right now, which means that, like, as a content creator and voice of virtual worlds, like, yeah, I'm gonna be talking about massive ones. Why wouldn't I? Just like if there was a bunch of massive online RPGs and I was not seeing any MORPGs, I would be talking about MORPGs. Part of why MORPGs are so popular right now is because of Japan, the market that basically created them. Now, there's a lot of arguments to be made about who carried the torch at certain points of the time, like the timeline, right? But it's not disputed pretty much at all that the Japanese market created the MORPG genre. They had to, right? As I talked about in my Phantasy Star Online video, they had to almost like
because of some weird like limitation aspect that was guiding them, and the fact that consoles were very big there. I mean, they still are, but you know what I'm saying. And so the fact that Japanese virtual worlds took a different route is great. Like anyone that thinks that I wouldn't be happy about that or like that is just absurd. Because think about it, I was playing Phantasy Star back then. why? Why would I be against it? Think about that. I played the game that created the genre, and it was one of my favorite games of all time. The Western version of that, Guild Wars 1, I also played religiously. The truth is, I just love virtual worlds, right? But just like with anything, especially when it comes to like Western, specifically American politics, people love to just choose a side. So I feel like that's why in some of my videos it comes across as me being like, why are you guys arguing about this? Because it's like, seriously, think about it for a second. I don't like watching baseball. I think it's incredibly. But do I ever go and argue about baseball? No. Do I argue about baseball changing the rules for me? No. I don't like watching baseball. Watch it. So then why do MORPGs and MMORPGs seemingly have like competitions? Well, it's like I said, they're a part of the same space in a sense, have a lot of similarities, but also have differences. Either one has strengths and weaknesses. It's not like one is better than the other, right? Here, one second. My puppy on the wall that I was behind. I'm not even kidding. This is how funny he is. He found the wall that I was behind, and he started scratching on it. He didn't really do anything, so honestly, it's just. But yeah, he was just scratching on the wall. That funniest shit. He's like, I know you're there, and he's like, get through there. Little troublemaker, but he's like 10 months, so he's a baby. Anyway, I wanted to do some reacting today, but it's funny, I tried looking for things to react to, and I didn't find a whole lot of stuff. So we'll just make it fun real quick. For those that don't know me, this is me. I went to the MMORPG subreddit, you know, digging deep, and I found this article, and I wanted to shit all over it. Well, I found this thread, and I wanted to shit all over it, because that's what I do sometimes. Anyway, so the question is, should I play ESO if I just want to immerse in Elder Scrolls lore and exploration? The person says they've never played any MMO, and the only TS game they've played is Skyrim. So for people wondering, why would they want to play ESO just off the rip? It's because ESO is a newer game. I'm not kidding, casual gamers literally think this simply. I know because I've heard them say this shit to me before. They look at a list of games, they see what the most recent one is, and they get that. Even if it's not the best one, even if it's not the most played, it's just recency, right? So this person's asking this and not asking the reverse question, right? Like, why can't I play Skyrim or rather Morrowind and Oblivion? They don't want to play the older game. They want to play a newer game. So ESO becomes a good game for a lot of Elder Scrolls fans to play, right? Because it's like, I don't want to play the older games. I'll play the new game. I'll play ESO. Now the person says they've never played an MMO, by the way. And they said they've read stuff about how the combat is shitty and it has some cash grabs. But these are not my main concern since I don't plan on tryharding the game. Which, to be clear, none of that changes the fact that it still sucks. Whether you try hard or not doesn't change that cash grabs exist, nor that the combat's shitty. This is just a mindset that players often have. I talked about this in my soloable MMO video that triggered a bunch of nerds, which is that this is not a player who wants to play an MMO, actually. He doesn't actually want to play one. He never said that in anything about in his clip. He never says, heck, if raiding is dungeoning, I won't even bother with it. He doesn't want to play with other players. He doesn't actually want to do an MMO. So then what is he asking for? Well, he really is just looking for a chance to immerse himself in the lore and exploring. Which means, in a sense, Elder Scrolls doesn't need to be an MMO. It isn't, by the way. It has a player cap of, I think, like 150 in zones or something like that. It might even be lower than that these days with console. Xbox is probably like 100. And also, Final Fantasy XIV has a similar thing. And for people wondering, yeah, but how can they throttle when they're cross-platform? They already can. Most of these games can. They have an option in the setting that you can press, and it disables a lot of the renderers around you. Final Fantasy has it, for example. Elder Scrolls Online already plays like a MMORPG because it is a MMORPG, right? There's nothing massive about the game. Except if you want to be generous, the size of the map of the game, right? The world itself is massive, right? And I think that usually satisfies enough of what people's like concern is about what is massive. Is, well, the map is massive, the game, so then therefore the game is massive. The problem is that people wondering, well, what's the issue with a player like this? There isn't an issue. The issue is that if you conflate the kind of game he wants to play as an MMO, you're basically saying this guy wants to be a shitty MMO player. But nerd, aren't you insulting solo players? I've been solo playing MMOs longer than most of you have been playing MMOs. Let's just get that out of the way. So then what am I saying there? What I'm saying is that if you don't want to actually group with other players and interact with other players, you don't want to play an MMO. You actually don't want to play one. The people who say that you do and they create all these weird arguments, every time boils down to, I want to play a MMORPG. I want to play a MMORPG. I'd love to play a MMORPG. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But you don't have to keep conflating it to a world when a world doesn't allow you to pause and play in the same way that a MMORPG does. When a world doesn't care if you don't want to interact with players or not. Like, imagine playing Ultima and just being like, you know what? I just don't want to interact with players. You think that really matters that much to everyone else? Not really. As a solo player in Ultima Online, went back and played it later on a private shard. No. Everyone is either going to ignore me because they think I'm a PKer. I was. Or they're going to try to gank me because I'm also a solo player. That's literally the only way you get treated as a solo player in the majority of massive MMOs. But isn't that just unfair? It's like, the world is unfair. Our world, the hardest MMO ever, is unfair, guys. You want to know what happens about when you're a solo player in a war zone, in a battle zone, in a fight, getting jumped, providing for your family, just one person? There's so many scenarios I can break it down to. When it's just one person, it's always and will always be, as social human creatures, infinitely harder. That's why they make the game so easy. You see the genius of MMORPGs in the modern era? They make them so easy, so players always feel like they're the cool, uber, mega badass, and yet still get that experience of, like he says, being able to experience the lore, the story, and whatever the world it is itself. Even if I don't like it and I have my issues with it, which I'll go into detail about, that still allows them to do that while fulfilling a power fantasy without having to learn anything. And that's very addicting. For people wondering, why are so many MMORPGs so easy? Well, recently, Yoshida, for those not aware, the game director of Final Fantasy XIV, recently came out and admitted what I've been saying for, like, I don't know, almost like 8 years at this point, that the game is too easy. And because the game's too easy, it doesn't prepare its player base. So what they did instead of trying to fix that problem, they just made the game easier overall. and they made every single class easier. And now people have homogenization with classes that they complain about, while the players who weren't very good don't complain because they never had to get better, they never had to improve, and so then therefore they're just happy with the changes because it allows them to play the game. And you might be wondering, yeah, but would players like that maybe quit if they only had the chance to improve and they weren't just kind of given it? And the answer is sometimes yes. But guess what? We're playing an RPG, a role-playing game where you progressively get stronger over time. You see how absurd it is to think about, like, yeah, but like, I don't want to have to learn my rotation from a ninja player in Final Fantasy XIV. It's like, your rotation's like 5 buttons. Like, like hearing monks, man, positionals are so hard. You have like 3 positionals, like on cooldown. Like, max. I can go down the list, right? There's so many different classes that they basically ruined and made even more trivial because they've been appealing so long to an audience who doesn't play MMOs. And for people thinking, man, you're just being mean, I want you to stream a video of yourself or record it playing hard mode or extreme raids or trials in Final Fantasy XIV, and I want you to show me that footage. And you know why I'm laughing, you know why I'm smiling, and you know I'm setting you up. And the reason is because those dungeons are and difficulty styles are absolutely horrible. I've played them, and I was blown away by how low skill those modes were. Like, it was shocking. It was like, okay, we had to remind our healer to buff. Okay, like, our tank is not taunting on cooldown. Like, I'm talking shit that players should never do when they're max. But this is happening at max level where players can't even function on basic levels because they've been able to get carried through the game so much. And when they try to play more difficult content, they're literally gobsmacked by it. And the good thing is, and the trick is that for most players that are interested in a game like this, they don't care about difficulty. That's the trick. That's the key, guys. It's a key. If the player base was the classic Final Fantasy player base, they would hate this shit. I'm telling you, as a player who is a classic Final Fantasy player, I hate this shit. This is coming from the guy who thought 14 or 15 is too easy, who thinks 16 is too easy. These games are too easy for Final Fantasy games. Oh, you're just being edgy. No, I've just played like 10 Final Fantasy games, and all of them were harder. Every Final Fantasy game before that, even 13 is difficult. People want to shit on 13. 13 is actually difficult. Come on. It's not easy, man. Go take out the roaming bosses and tell me it's easy. Get everyone's Ultima and tell me it's easy. I don't believe you if you tell me it's easy. That game's hard, bro. Like, and 13 is not terribly old. Now, with 14 initially, yeah, it was difficult. Probably too difficult. Probably good that they got rid of some of the difficulty levels. But losing so much of the difficulty, I don't think like classic Final Fantasy players miss this, but I think the players who don't care about the Final Fantasy franchise and just like 14 don't care. Which is that for us classic Final Fantasy fans, we're like, where is the difficulty? Point out a famous Final Fantasy game that's not difficult. Like literally anyone right now. Is Tactics easy? Is 4 easy? Is 5 and 6 easy? You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not buying it. Must honorably 1v1. Thank you, Mr. Fergman, for becoming a member. Man, I started getting some ping spikes. Hopefully you guys are still here. If you win, it's because you're a sweaty tryhard who pays to win. That makes sense. PTSD of me trying to carry randoms and high-end content. Oh, dude, could you show it to us, Mr. Zero Sins? You said you have a video of doing harder raids in Final Fantasy XIV. I mean, remember, everyone on the stream sat there, told me, dude, play Monk, it's awesome. I played Monk, got to Heavensward, was like, all right, guys, I gotta make some content. I'll be back. When I came back, they literally changed my class and made it so fucking easy that I was even shocked that people thought before that point it was difficult. Like, I was just like, what's the point of me playing this class? I literally played it because I wanted to press more buttons. And when they got rid of and they streamlined some of my shit, I remember just being like, why? Like, people want to sit there and act so smug about my video with consolization and pretend it doesn't affect a game like Final Fantasy XIV. You guys are smoking crack, bro. You guys are smoking crack, and it's funny as fuck because you're delusional about it. People sitting there being like, no, bro, like, seriously, like, the fucking 4-second GCD? No, really, bro. It's server issues. This game was made to be played on the console. Let's just call it what it is. There's nothing wrong with admitting that necessarily. The problem is that it leads to a lot of why they also dumb things down, because they're attracting an audience who doesn't want to use their keyboard. Think about that for a second. If you don't want to use your keyboard and you're playing a strategic MMO that requires you to press multiple buttons over the course of a fight at the right time, what would be the solution to making that more approachable? Lessening the abilities. What would make that approachable? Increasing the GCD. It's not rocket science, right? It's actually super simple what they did. They went for a slower WoW approach that works because there's consoles involved, right? WoW doesn't have consoles involved. Does it have a controller support? Yes. Do I think most MMOs and MMORPGs should get controller support so they can just ignore consoles altogether? Yes. A loud, resounding fucking yes. And I'm sorry, my console bros. I was a console bro too. 20 years ago. Like, when I was here, posting on the video, people were like, man, you're being disingenuous, saying you can play with the same amount of money it costs for a console. Guys, last time I was checking, PS whatevers were costing $400 or $500. You're telling me right now, you're so dumb that you don't think me, a poor kid who grew up on fucking government aid, can't figure out a build for a $500 PC? Are you kidding me? That is what my build was. What do you think my first PC was? I built it myself. I bought it myself. That's exactly what I did. I spent $600, and that was back then, whenever PCs were super expensive. So the amount of bullshit I was getting from people on their ivory tower of I've never had to struggle for spending money on a PC budget build, trying to tell me that you can't budget build PCs. That shit was just fucking comedy. You telling me, the budget PC guy? Do you guys know what I used to play Warhammer online with? I would play with 15 FPS. When I looked at the ground, I got 25 and 20. So it's so funny when people don't know a damn thing about you and they want to sit there and be like, oh, you're just shitting on poor people on consoles. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm poorer than you. What are we talking about? I used to steal DVDs in convenience stores and grocery stores so I could use the internet. Like AOL internet DVD. And I was like 8. Like, it's always been a struggle for me to get on the internet, including with a PC. So it's so funny. Like, people were like, oh, you're saying that they could build it with $400, $500, $600. Well, they wouldn't be able to play WoW on the max settings. That's not the concern, you stupid fuck. That's how I know you're a privileged idiot, that you're talking about something you shouldn't be talking about. When you're poor, you're thinking about 30 FPS. Anybody in chat right now, raise your hand if I'm telling the truth. When you don't have the money, and I'm not saying you guys have to be dirt poor. I'm saying if you guys are on your own, maybe you're making your money now, raise your hand if I'm right. Come on, man. Everyone knows I'm right about that. Shit crazy, man. Yes, exactly, Mr. Zero Sins. Like, WildStar was actually a great example. When WildStar came out, I would get like 20 FPS in the city. Anyone that knows that game, who played it as much as I did, knows what I'm talking about. But the late game city in that game, you would slideshow through it. Like, even if you had a good PC, honestly. But me? Oh man. It was like DDR in slow motion for me playing WildStar on my old PC. Yeah, it's just, it was funny reading some stuff like that, like the consolization shit, and reading people being like, yeah, no, and that's the thing is, it's like what they mean 0 cents. They actually are making a good argument. What they're trying to say is the minimum specs of a console are comparable to the average minimum specs or better of a PC. They're right. I'm not denying that. What I'm denying is that you can't spend $500-600 on a budget PC and come away playing any MMO right now. You can. You absolutely can. Like, there's no doubt in my fucking mind you can. Because a budget PC, guess what that means? You don't need to buy a fucking monitor. Use a TV. Right? You got a mouse laying around? Use that. Ask your friend for his old keyboard. Boom, there you go. That $600 ain't counting all the peripherals, brand fucking spanking new. Like, don't be dumb about it. Buy that shit used or buy it on sale. Like, when I bought my Black Widow keyboard, that shit was only, because it was on sale, because it was previously used before, back when it was max price, I spent like 40 bucks on it, 50 bucks on it. I remember it being a steal because it was open box. I was like, box, I don't give a, it's mechanical. So anyway, if anyone wants any tips on how to build budget PCs, go to the tech section, ask Card or ask me. Card is better at picking PCs, and I'm really good at budgeting. Here we go. This is a good argument. DefCope says he bought a $150 pre-owned Xbox One, similar to me, by the way. I think, was that the previous Xbox? Whatever the previous one was, I bought it used and got a similar deal. Best money I ever spent. 600 impulse buy PC was also a good spend, but it hurt economically. So for me, $600 impulse buy PC. I don't know how you can impulse buy a PC for that much money, but maybe you just got a big sum of money and you were just like, fuck it. That I can understand. But what I'll say is that I don't even think my interest is in arguing against the console itself. As somebody who has and likes consoles, I think my argument's more that if you're building an online RPG for consoles, you're basically only ever going to build a more RPG. And while there's nothing that inherently wrong with that, I think it's not been done in the best way and leveraged in the best way. And what I mean is that PSO leveraged controllers. It was Diablo with controller, right? The new MMORPGs that are coming out are using like keyboard style combat, which just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why does Final Fantasy XIV move the way it does on controller? You see what I'm saying? Like, it just, for me, two divides there. While Final Fantasy XIV is one of the best examples because it was made for console, look at like ESO, look at so many of these other games, and you can tell that the two types of game audiences are playing a completely different. And I'll give you guys a very harsh reality of this. One of my friends, it has like fuck tons of champion points in ESO. He's a PC player. One time, just for lols, because I was watching console players play, I asked him, I was just like, hey, like, can you actually be competitive, like, from console, like, da-da-da? And he just, like, kind of looked at me and laughed and just thought to himself, and he was just like, the players that are good on console are, like, slightly above average PC players. He's like, I've never encountered any console player that I was like, whoa, a console player. Because why would you feel that way? You have every advantage to a console player on PC when you're playing MMOs. Like, literally every advantage. There's no disadvantage that you have. A PC player should never perform worse than a console player. Theoretically, right? We're talking about theoretically here. And so the issue with that is that means that the console has a lower skill cap, which means that it lowers the game's overall skill cap. Now, if the game doesn't care about that kind of stuff, then who cares, right? I don't. The issue is when it starts to affect the actual gameplay, it's not just about who's good anymore, and now it's about what's fun. Like, for example, every new Final Fantasy game has action combat. I repeat, every new Final Fantasy game has action combat. And what does Final Fantasy XIV still have? Turn-based. Essentially, right? It's pretty much the only newer Final Fantasy game that still has that kind of combat system. And that's why it's always funny when like I point that out and Final Fantasy 14 fans are like, huh? Because they don't really care about Final Fantasy franchise outside of Final Fantasy 14. So it doesn't really mean that much to them. But I just think it's interesting, right? Even if you throw Kingdom Hearts into that. Like what I'm trying to say is that these franchises are moving away from this style of combat. It doesn't mean that it's never going to work, doesn't mean that it's dead completely. But I think Final Fantasy kind of only ever had that combat style because of limitations. They never felt like it was like hard baked into their identity. I mean, Crisis Core and other games like that I think are good examples. They existed back then. Even 8, is it 8 or 9's like hybrid no, it's 12 with the Gambit system. Even 12's Gambit system plays more like a modern day MMO. And people often call that game like an MMO. Like it looks and plays like one. So, you see what I'm saying? It's just weird that 14's the only one that got consoleized, essentially, in a negative sense, because it's also trying to appeal to the PC audiences, which it did a good job of doing. So I'm not taking away from that. I guess what I'm trying to say is that in the future, if they were to make another Final Fantasy game, if they made it in the same style of that, I don't think you could ever convince me that it would be good. Sorry. And I don't think they would, if I'm going to be blunt. I don't think they'll ever make another Final Fantasy game that's like Final Fantasy 11 and 14 combat. I don't really think they're going to make games like that anymore. If they make a new Final Fantasy MMO, I think it's going to be a hybrid system. I think they'll keep some aspects of it, but I think they're going to go more action-oriented. I just don't see an argument for why not, basically. I know they don't. And that's the thing is, like, I know sometimes that, you know, when you talk to somebody, they can very much seem like they're maybe taking some things and kind of running with it. What you guys have to realize with me is I pretty much read all of my comments. And I also engage with a lot of people, which means that I'm talking to tons of these people. And I will ask them questions about Final Fantasy. And I used to be shocked. Like, I mean, you guys could watch the old VODs I have, like, on the stream channel, like the very first ones. And many of those videos are me being like, what the fuck? Like, having reactions like that. Because I never encountered it before. I never knew that that was a real thing. Well, now it's become so entrenched and I've been so, like, engrossed in it that it's actually fairly common that I encounter Final Fantasy players who, if they've ever played a Final Fantasy game, they've played, like, one. So that means that, like, basing the game on Final Fantasy as a whole doesn't really mean anything to them. Which sucks because that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in an MMO that is Final Fantasy themed, or a RPG that is Final Fantasy themed. The problem with Final Fantasy 14 is that I feel like it's built for non-Final Fantasy loyal fans. That's always been my complaint about the game. And anytime I ever voice that concern, I kind of feel like people just treat me like an old man and just be like, oh, he's just an old man. What do you think? Only the old Final Fantasies are good? Like, they'll say like that kind of shit. And it's just like, honestly, it's just more that I don't know exactly what about 14 is that Final Fantasy. Sorry. Don't have companions that you can play with, right? Like, they're involved in the story, but you can't actually play with them. For me, it's kind of like, you can't level with your friends in that game. How strange is that for a Final Fantasy cooperative game? Imagine thinking, Final Fantasy game, cooperative, you can't level together. It just sounds strange. Like, you can tell it's a Japanese game that was made for Westerners. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it doesn't make any logical sense. The classic Dragon's Dogma where it's like, wait, why didn't this get launched in the West when it was literally made for Westerners? It's like, because they're Japanese. But yeah, I knew that some of my... This became more of an issue, because, to be honest, does it matter if, like, people that play ESO never played any Elder Scrolls game? It doesn't really matter, right? Like, it's not like I'm like, no! Right? The same thing with Final Fantasy. The problem is this, for those that don't understand the concept of a virtual world and a particular popular IP, think about it like this. Imagine you've been a fan of an IP for 10s, maybe 20s of years, right? Like a long time, right? Like dozens of years. And suddenly they announce that they're going to make this online virtual world. What's the first thing you would think? Oh, wow, how's that going to be like Final Fantasy classically? how's it gonna look and play like classic Final Fantasy? Or maybe what new aspects is it gonna add? What I'm trying to say is that although Final Fantasy has many different worlds, so it's actually a bad example in that sense, much of it plays the same and has many of the same themes. So whenever Final Fantasy XIV came out originally, it had pretty much all of that. Like, whenever my friends and I were testing it in alpha, we felt like it felt like a Final Fantasy game, like an actual Final Fantasy game. When they Realm Reborned it, while I could feel some of the same aspects, it felt like I was playing WoW, and I've never escaped that feeling since playing the game. It feels like I'm playing a slower WoW that is graphically made to look like Final Fantasy. And WoW, that's great for most people. I think WoW actually has a good combat system, for example, and it's actually a good game. It wasn't good for me because, again, look at the perspective that I came from. I came from as a classic Final Fantasy fan, coming into this being like, okay, well, like, where's the aspects for me to have fun, right? The new player experience would never fly in any single Final Fantasy game in history. Like, that's one of the first things that I focus on. When people say, well, what are you talking about? What's so bad about Final Fantasy XIV compared to Final Fantasy games? The new player experience, it's worse than almost any Final Fantasy game I've ever played. It's boring. It doesn't really teach you shit. It's not challenging at all. The story is not gripping. None of the characters are really that noticeable for me, including the ones people kept pointing out to me. I'm just sorry. I thought that the 1.0 experience was clearly them rushing the game because they didn't have a choice, and it's why nobody ever defends 1.0 going into Heavensward. Like, problem is that that's the crux of whatever the first game is, right? So the idea with Final Fantasy XIV fans is, well, no, it's the expansions. You have to play the expansions. What Final Fantasy game do you have to play the expansions in before you enjoy the game? None of them, dude. And that's what I'm saying, guys. and I've realized, like, some of the more loyalist Final Fantasy fans don't even argue me on this anymore. I kind of feel like you can't. What is the argument? You know what I'm saying? Like, but what Final Fantasy game are you like, guys, don't play it until the third expansion. Ignore the early game. I know it's gonna suck. What Final Fantasy game? None of them. Sorry. None of them are like that. Honestly, pretty much the best Final Fantasies all have really good early game experiences. Like, everybody remembers Midgard in FF7. Everybody remembers running around in the wedding and the ball room scenes in 8 and 9. Right? Like, everyone remembers these iconic scenes whenever they're first creating their characters. Why can't I remember a single scene from 1.0? I remember that there was like a Moogle, and the Moogle was like helping me out and shit. And then I met this girl who was like an elf, and there was like a demon guy who I was dreaming about and shit, and like he ended up being me, and I had to fight myself or some shit. And it was like, do people actually think that that's a good story? Like, have any of you played Final Fantasy games? Like, that's not a good Final Fantasy experience for me. Sorry. And that's why the goalpost always gets moved to, no, it's Heavensward. No, it's Stormblood. No, it's this. It's like, and that's what I'm saying, Mr. Zero Sins. That's why I hate when old school fans just dismiss it, because it's easy for you guys to dismiss it because the game's not designed for you to have to create new characters. Think about that for a second. You don't care about the new player experience. I know you don't. Plenty of Final Fantasy fans have told me that. What about everybody else? What about Final Fantasy fans? Yeah, I think he means 1.0 going into 2.0. I think is what most of us mean in context, but I don't want to speak for it. Yeah, it's just and so you might be wondering, what's your point except just complaining about not liking the style of Final Fantasy XIV? It's, first off, the game's not made for me, so it doesn't really matter if I don't like the style or not, which is why you never see me sitting here talking about the game itself being the issue. The issue I have with the game, in a sense, is actually the audience. And I'll give you a couple of examples. I was talking about this recently on stream, or rather on Discord. Final Fantasy XIV is one of the few audiences I ever have met that actually basically is totally fine with the game not having any content introduced into it into the next expansion. And I've always found that particularly interesting. And I'm talking about Yoshida literally tells the fan base, hey guys, come back when you're ready. And the player base is totally cool and fine with that. And now there's nothing inherently wrong about that. Now the interesting thing though is that a lot of players will continue to pay their subscription fees, which means that you're basically paying for services to come that you know aren't gonna not come anytime soon. So in a sense, it's actually a bad business proposition for you, because you're not getting monthly content or quarterly content like it's promised for MMOs or MMORPGs to give you. You're just and you have to pay full price for the expansions each time, by the way. So in a sense, they've set up a Final Fantasy business model of buying a new game each time with a concurrent online game that they can continue to make money off of. It's fucking genius, right? What they've been able to do is they've been able to take their approach and make it like WoW Western style, and yet it still feels very Japanese. The execution is Japanese. The strategy is Japanese. The advertisements, marketing is Japanese. The identity of the game is Japanese. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think Final Fantasy XIV honestly is a work of art. As much as it seems like I shit on it, but I guess you hear me talking very highly of it because I think very highly of Yoshida and his team. I, however, think that player base and their arguments that I've gotten when I've reached or broached some of these subjects kind of made me really question certain aspects, because it's just like this recent thing I was talking about where Yoshida was talking about the game needed to be more difficult. Literally there were players already saying before they've ever even tested it, man, if they do that, I'm just not gonna play it. And that's the player base that you make games for, when you trivialize your content and never make them improve, which goes against the spirit of an MMO, by the way. I'm just being honest, guys. That's my issue with the game and the player base. It's more that they've catered so much to a non-MMO, non-MMORPG like playing audience that they've had to dumb down the game so much that the difficulty reflects nothing close to any Final Fantasy game I've ever played, right? But what about Savage content? How many people are playing Savage content? How many people are playing that shit? It's just not a good game. It's not a good argument. I made 3 characters from scratch and played for the entire story each time. I mean, that's pretty impressive. I'm not gonna lie. It's been a big reason why I haven't gone back to the game, is that the only way for me to go back at this point is to buy a boost and boost another character, because I'm not playing Monk anymore. It's fucking boring as shit. For a class that's supposed to be fast moving, they literally got rid of that part. The spirit of near any game. Well, yeah, I guess any game you're supposed to improve and kind of get better in. But even WoW has that problem. Again, people are gonna say, you just hate Final Fantasy. It's like, no, the combat system in WoW is better, but they've also ran into the exact same problem. They've trivialized the game so much. They got rid of so much class identity. So many things play the same way. Nearly every class can heal now. The dungeons and hard modes and everything else in that game have always been shit. And they've always acted like it's fucking rocket science to solve this problem. This is why I want to make a video about subjects like this, but the problem is that nobody watches shit like this because it's too specific and too educational. And so people are just like, and they tune it out. But this is actual helpful shit that people need to learn, including the industry itself. Which is that, like, do you guys want to know how you actually get people better at things? You progressively introduce new challenges while giving them the tools to overcome them, and slowly allow them the chance and time to overcome those obstacles. Now, if you are rushing to max level, can you accomplish that? No. if you are only focused on the story experiences and not the difficulty and immersion of those story experiences, then you're also going to do a shit job of that. If you're only interested in selling your level boosts instead of making your early game experience more challenging or just good, why would you give a fuck as well? Do you see what I'm saying? It's like, it's a consistent problem that many of these games suffer from. ESO, Final Fantasy, WoW, many of these games, early game experiences are so easy that by the time you get to late game content and you want to actually challenge yourself, you get slapped in the face. And the thing that people don't get about conflict, and I teach people this a lot with PvP in general and martial arts as well in real life, when you join a fight and you're not ready for it, it always feels like a slap in the face. You see what I'm saying? Now, some people like that shit, like me. Slap me and pull my hair, you know what I'm saying? But if I don't know you, do I want to get slapped by somebody? Like, no, I might like it in the sense of now I'm gonna kick your ass, but like, no, I don't like it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you don't want engagements like that to exist online, where somebody's just getting slapped in the face. And that's the problem with so many of these, LFR, LFG scenarios is you're just gonna get slapped in the face, and it ends up being a very negative feeling for you. That then makes you feel like you can't play the game anymore because you were taught by the developers and whatever society you were raised in that improving at something is somehow not virtuous, or that you shouldn't strive to improve at things, or that whenever things get just a little bit difficult, I don't want to have to try even a little bit more. And I'm not making fun of you guys. Many of you guys here, I'm convinced, want to improve at things. And not just because you're watching me. The kind of shit that I'm talking about is the shit that I was reading on Reddit. Go read the thread. It's on the front page right now. The one talking about Yoshida. Read some of the comments. It is the saddest, most pathetic comments I've ever fucking read. I'm reading comments like these guys have one arm and two fingers. Like, what I'm saying is like, shout out to my homies with actual disabilities out there who are struggling through games like this, right? And I know a few of them that even play with shit like pedals and shit. And then I'm getting normal human beings with working fucking limbs saying like, oh no, they want me to learn one more button? No. And you guys wonder why I get gatekeepy. That's why I get gatekeepy. Because if nobody's keeping the gate, then everybody comes in and suddenly there's no challenge anymore, because developers don't seem to really care about fixing that problem if they can maximize how much money they're going to make out of it first, right? Meaning that the problem doesn't become a real problem until pretty much later on. And even then, for early on, for the player base that it would attract, like D&D players, massively successful franchise right now that has insane amounts of spin-offs, RPG series formed from it, movies, fucking TV shows, you name it. Top streaming platforms are showing D&D. D&D is massive right now. Why do I keep saying that? Why am I blowing this out of proportion? You don't think players right now are okay with permadeath or dying in video games? Why are roguelites so popular? Why are 2 indie roguelites trending right now? This is what I was talking to Cart about this weekend, which is that the issue is that we're looking at it like the audience is too dumb to feel this shit already. They're not. They're just waiting for a game to realize it in. That's why they're playing RuneScape still. That's why people are still joining RuneScape as new players, guys. Because they don't have a game like that. They don't have an experience like the 2 new roguelites that just launched. The one about card games and the one about fucking playing as like some animal or some shit. Like, those experiences don't exist in MMOs really, right? So that's why it's like, I want to push back against people saying, yeah, but people don't want difficulty. They don't want the early game to be difficult. Then why are they playing Rust? Then why are they playing Ark? Then why are they playing all these games with difficult fucking beginning games? Why do they play farming games? Like, it's not easy to form your farm at the beginning. You see what I'm saying? It's like, what you realize is that that's the narrative people tell you, but it's the narrative that pearl clutchers use, because they don't want to have to actually challenge themselves. And so whenever I make videos or talk about this shit, it's gonna make me seem like the angry old dude. I get that. I'm 30, but I look and feel older. People are gonna be like, wow, he's just being angry and old. And it's like, okay, I mean, fair enough, that's one way to look at it. But here's the thing. If these games aren't gonna improve you, what is? That's what the topic of this stream is. Why are virtual worlds so important? Is it because you want me to get better at video games, Nerd Slayer? Why does that matter? Does it really matter? If you're 10 points better than you were yesterday, does that matter? Probably not. If you went from being the worst player on your server to the middle tier player, that's incredible. That's a life skill. You've not only social climbed, you've climbed based on your own merit. That's not something to dismiss. What are some more important aspects that virtual worlds basically nothing else can beat? The ability to be social with strangers. How? Why is that? Because now we're in a different world with different identities, acting as different characters. We don't have all the same problems that we did before. Maybe sometimes you see trolls like me in chat saying, WoW was the first MMO in general, chat. That exists. I'm there in every game. You'll see me. But spreading that meme. If you ever wonder who's the person spreading that meme, I'm not even kidding. 99% of the time it's me. So if someone ever spreads that meme, send them a PM and ask them to confirm or not confirm that they're me. But anyway, it's one of my favorite things to do whenever I'm bored. But you see what I'm saying? It's just like the ability to actually like be engaged in the world and have to actually use your real life skills to overcome these challenges. That's the beauty of virtual worlds, guys. It's like a testing ground for real world shit. Hey, I want to hit on this girl, but I'm too nervous. Let me hit on this girl in this video game. Hey, do you want to go to the cantina with me? And she just walks away, and I'm just. But hey, I learned something. This person doesn't know me. I was probably maybe a little forward, right? And maybe I should just start at hello. See what I'm saying? And you learn other things like how to make friends, right? Like I met my best friends online. Besides the friends that I met in my literal neighborhood. And the people that are the most like me, including pretty much every relationship I've been in, has been online. So virtual worlds really do provide this like special, unique aspect that nothing else does. Whether that be Final Fantasy XIV or Ultima Online or EVE Online. They all offer something that other games and genres don't. They offer you the ability to join a world in which you can immerse yourself in and play as a different character. So those RPG aspects are kind of what makes it special, right? Now the thing about RPGs is that what makes them so fun is when they can progressively give you challenges and level you up. That's a big part of people who play MMOs enjoyment. As people in chat can probably back me up on, is that we like to level characters in the good games, obviously, because we love to like progressively get stronger and see how our character fares with new abilities. For example, Warhammer Online, I had almost every single character to level 40 except like 2. In SWTOR, I had almost every max character except for a consular and a trooper. There's many game examples that are like this, right? In Galaxies, I had, I think, 6 professions maxed, so on and so forth. Why do players like me go back and make new characters? It's because it meant it was a good experience, right? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's a sign that there's a good experience there. Now, to be fair, people might say, yeah, but in those games, you can't just change your class and job. Fair enough. That's the point that I have made about Final Fantasy XIV, is it doesn't necessarily need you to make a new class or character. So then, therefore, they can get away with having a worse new player experience. But I'm telling you guys that even if you're a player of the game, you shouldn't let them get away with that shit. That recent MSQ redo that they did, I went back and played through it, like halfway through it, and I was not impressed at all. At all. Like, did I notice that they moved some things around? Yeah. But like, they still didn't change the fact that it sucks. And the pacing sucks. And it doesn't teach you shit. Like, they never fix that stuff. Because they're not really that interested in fixing that stuff. And I think that just goes to show that now Yoshida's basically admitting this. So I feel like, sorry, I was vindicated. Because I've been saying this for a long ass time. Again, watch the early VODs on this channel. I've been complaining about difficulty in Final Fantasy XIV. And people always think it's me trying to say, oh, you're just trying to raise the floor so that no one can play. And it's like, no, that's not my argument. I always have been a big believer in low floors. Right? WoW has a low floor? Anyone who doesn't think WoW has a low ceiling or a low floor is delusional. WoW has a low floor. Now here's the key with WoW. It has a large ceiling. I know people love hating on Tap Target. Trust me, I did my fair share of that. But WoW has a high skill cap, okay? Proving that you don't need to be action-oriented to have high skill cap, right? But how did WoW get to that point? Well, time. They're evolving. They're evolving the classes, not devolving them, evolving them, increasing difficulty of the game, introducing new raids that are even more difficult, right? Not because of the difficulty modes, but just because they introduce new challenges. And that's what's missing, I think. And I'll just level with you guys. I actually told Card this too. Yoshida recently said he wants to work on another game. I honestly think that he is creatively bored of Final Fantasy XIV. I'm sorry, that hurts people's feelings, but I'll tell you why. It's because he realizes that there's actually nothing he can do to change the formula. He can't change the formula. It would kill the game, right? Just like Realm Reborn had to change the formula, he's not going to change it back. He's not going to change the formula. So then therefore it becomes, okay, well then what's the excitement of building this? Well, it becomes creating the new expansions. That means that his excitement is pretty, like, distant, because the expansions take a long time. See what I'm saying? So it's like, for a creator, my guess is that something like Final Fantasy XIV is probably a little too slow for someone like Yoshida. He admitted that he's in his, like, 50s, getting close to 60. He wants to be able to continue to work on games and stuff like that. So with live service online RPGs like that, sometimes them just making like little increases is all they need to do. They don't need to make big leaps. Because guess what? If you want to make a big leap, make a new game. And the good thing is, and this is why I'm confident with people like Yoshida and Square even, in the Japanese market in general, is like one thing the Japanese market understands better than any other market. Korean market understands it too. I mean, in fact, they might both understand it pretty well, but maybe the Korean market has more experience with it. Here's my issue. The Western market, WoW launched in 2004. Let's let it last forever. Yeah. That's the Western market. Lineage 1 came out in 99. Does anybody want to guess how many Lineage games there is? I'm gonna lose my MMO like godness because I'm gonna have to look this up. But I literally want you guys to guess how much or how many Lineage games there is. Since 99. So they launched 5 years before WoW. And since then, they've launched a mobile port, a sequel, a prequel, a direct prequel to the second game, a mobile port of the second game, a new mobile game of the second game, a unique mobile game, and Throne and Liberty is literally a planned and direct sequel to Lineage. It says that on their wiki. Like, somebody clip this shit, man. Like, I want people to understand the absurdity of the Western market at the moment. How behind we are. That we're still trying to make WoW from 2004 work. And Lineage has come out with 6 or 7 games. And 2 are new gen. 2 of them are new gen. What the 2 of them are new gen, guys. So then you might be sitting here and saying, yeah, but it's because WoW was making all this money. Are they anymore? Why are they banking so much on Classic? Because they're not making as much money as they were making. And guess what? Guess who is making as much money? If not, more money than they were making before. Look at this shit, guys. Lineage, 99, 6 billion won. 2000, 55 billion won. 150 billion won. 100, all the way to 2012. This is the first game. It's one of the greatest selling games of all time. Arguably has made more money than any other MMO of all time, including WoW. Because WoW won't even publish those numbers because they know Lineage will put them in the fucking dirt. That's because Lineage doesn't need to make box price or subscription numbers. It does have a subscription fee in Korea, by the way. But most people don't know that. But it's because of its loyal fan base across the world, making them insane amounts of money. Now look at Lineage 2. 20 billion, 100 billion, 100. Then it goes down, right? Lineage 1 and 2, the new version. You guys see the points I'm making here? These games are still making insane amounts of money. The franchise, who has made more money than them? For people wondering how much money that is 5.487 billion won. My guess to USD? Oof. I'm gonna say it's like 15 billion. Oh, this is South Korean. My bad, guys. My bad. I thought it was Japanese yen. I just did a yen conversion last night, so I was like ready to hit the nail on the head, and then I looked at my numbers and I was like, oh crap, it's the other direction. Anyway, look how much money they've made. What the fuck? Wait, is this actually correct? Yeah, this is. It's 3 zeros followed by 3 zeros followed by... No, that's not correct. There it goes. Okay, so why is this not updating here? It's 41 million, but it's not updating right here. Isn't that weird? What the fuck? I'm pressing enter too. Whatever. Anyway, that's how much money they've made. Isn't that insane, dude? And that's just off of gross revenue. And also what... Oh, nice. They actually linked each of the fact sheets in here, which is pretty helpful. This is just for Lineage 1 and 2 mobile, by the way. I'm an idiot because I thought that they combined all of these numbers together, but they're like, no, you're lazy, you need to do it yourself. So I'll do it myself. Wait a minute. Oh, okay, no, sorry, they use a comma. That's common. All right, so that's 17 billion. My numbers are actually off. So 17 billion Korean won to USD. All right, so they've made... Wait, why do they keep getting my numbers wrong? Right? Look, this is 17. It's 3 zeros. 6 zeros. Oh no, that's right. Be true. Be true. Alright, cool. So yeah, there you go. And by the way, that I think what they're talking about here is subscription combined with whatever is I just don't know how they're doing the here, I'll tell you what I mean. Microtransactions revenue overall. There's been a yeah, here we go. So I'm not really sure what's with these numbers on that Lineage. Damn, I'm blanking. Wiki page. Maybe those are just talking about their monthly, or rather their subscription fees. But I know it was too low because they've made 4 billion in gross revenue on just mobile alone. So I think my guess is correct. I think if you combine the total amount of money they've made throughout their entire franchises, they've made over $20 billion. Or let's say in the ballpark of 20 billion. I don't want to say over because it's a hard line. I'm going to say they're in the ballpark of $20 billion. So anytime anyone ever wants to sit there and tell you, WoW doesn't need a sequel, ask them if they'd like to be, I don't know, $10 billion richer, $15 billion richer. Who's going to say no to that? Yeah, but you don't know if it's going to work. But that's the whole point, is that's all the risk you take. And Korea took risk there. And their second game failed, by the way, like overall in the big scheme of things. So much so that the first game's still more popular than. But you see what I'm saying? Like the amount of money we're talking about here, we're talking about Almost $20 billion in one franchise. This is just Lineage. That's not counting MapleStory, which is easily like another 7 billion, right? Because they have the same story. You guys see what I'm saying? It's like, I know that back in the day, in 2011, 2010, 2009, we had a bunch of Western games coming out, and people felt like Western games were on top. Western MMOs and MMORPGs have not been on top for, I'm gonna say, are like 10 years at this point. It's been 10 years we've been getting our asses kicked by the Eastern markets, and it's not even fucking close. And a big part of the reason for that is that they do believe in sequels and building new worlds. We don't. And what do we have to show for it? Think about it. What game decided, you know what, let's actually come up with new versions? Escape. Still around, isn't it? Not just still around, it's one of the most played games and most successful games. And probably the best game that the West can brag about these days. In terms of just like all the aspects of it. Eastern approach. I'm just saying, bro. They made like 4 fucking games and even went back to their old game. That literally is a play straight out of Korea. Isn't that funny as fuck to think about? That RuneScape's like one of the only Western MMOs that actually copied Korea, and it's dominated because of it. Man. The MMOs that launched 10 years ago are still the big ones to play today. Yeah, because there isn't any new ones. That's my entire point. It's like, do I blame Final Fantasy XIV for not coming out with a new game in 10 years? Not really. They have the franchise of Final Fantasy, and they've been putting out insane amounts of games. So I wouldn't hold that against them. We're talking about games that are like ESO. What benefit does it have it to keep it in the Hero engine, in the current engine that everybody hates, to try to make as much money as they can out of doing the least? That's what the Western market's interested in, guys. If you break it all down, it comes back to that point. Western market doesn't want to spend money, wants to literally milk as much as they can, shittiest versions of the IP of the game that they have. Everyone echoes that the combat system in ESO sucks. If that was a Korean company in charge of that shit, man, dude. Are you kidding me? If a Korean company was in charge of ESO, are you fucking kidding me? They would have made a sequel like 5 years ago. No cap. They would have made a sequel like 5 years ago. And it would have been a good one. And that's the issue that I have. Is that it's not like Final Fantasy, right? That is going to suffer much from this. I mean, we just talked about the issues with that, in a sense. But a game like ESO, like a game like WoW, for example, WoW almost has no reason to not make a sequel, literally at all. Besides just trying to milk as much as they can off of a game and engine that's fading away. And unfortunately, that's good enough to trick a lot of the player base into being too dumb to want a sequel. And for those saying, wow, you're so mean. Like, what if they just want to play the old game? Guys, you haven't been paying a fucking attention. What do you think Korea's doing? You think Korea killed Lineage 1? Then why the fuck are they still making money off of it? You honestly think Lineage 1 got abandoned? Think about that for a second. The arguments I always get are, but WoW 1, but the support, shut the fuck up. That's not how this works. I get that you feel that way. You have strong emotions. You care about these worlds and games. I get it, I get it. Let's talk business. The business doesn't work that way. Korea. That's all I have to say. I just go like this. Korea. Look. Let's pull up a map. Whenever someone says, hey dude, like, what do you mean? Everyone's gonna quit and like they're gonna kill their own game and like the fan base is not gonna want to go to the new game. All this old MMO shit that people used to say in the West. This is my answer. Then why the fuck does Korea keep doing it? Korea has done it with like how many franchises that they have? Like how many of them? Lineage, Maple Story, Ragnarok, fuck, Fire Emblem. Oh wait, that's Japan. What's that RPG franchise from Korea? One of the only ones? Somebody in chat knows that. But you know what I'm saying? It's just like, man, drives me mad that we're so behind. I was crying about this shit back in the day, but I didn't have as like much of like an argument around it. It was more of just what I felt and just kind of looking at the timeline and space of games like launching. I just felt like we were falling behind. That was probably like 2012. After we just released a bunch of games. And then we released in 2014 WildStar. And then after that, obviously, was New World in the West. Since those like span of years from 2014 to 2024, we only saw like 2, maybe 3 MMOs or MMORPGs. The East saw like 40. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, to compare the scopes of these, it's just, they're beating us on their mainline titles. They're beating us in terms of market share. They're beating us in terms of whenever people think about MMOs, they're starting to think more about Korea. There's almost nothing that Korea and Japan, even more so newer, becoming a bigger player in the online space with Monster Hunter World's recent success. Phantasy Star is still around and kicking. Obviously, we've talked a lot about Final Fantasy XIV. These two markets don't seem to struggle with knowing how to do what they do best. Japan doesn't make massive games. They make online games that feel massive enough, but focus more on the storytelling and the immersions of the worlds themselves. And whatever that entails. Monster Hunter World is about capturing monsters. Final Fantasy is about the story and about playing through the story, if you so choose, in the end game with other players. Korea knows that it's really good at making massive online games as well as non-massive online games. So it does both. And in fact, it literally builds the games for different audiences. The non-massive games, they will try to put on mobile as fast as they can. Or they'll take their old massive games and put them on mobile because they can work on mobile now. Korea has it broken down to a science. They know how to keep their old games alive. They know how to make new games in the process. They know how to keep doing both of them to great success. And all the while, they can continue to make new games. Meanwhile, the West is literally desperately clinging on to the only online games that we have. Has gotten destroyed multiple times. We've tried to come out with major expansions for these games. Like the last expansion for WoW got like a positive response, but it was like the biggest response that I've seen in a while where people were like, okay, well, things aren't really working out anymore. Wow. And Final Fantasy XIV is doing better. Maybe people feel differently, but that's what I saw and felt. And with ESO, the expansions always do a good job of bumping them up, but I heard that the last expansion felt more like it was kind of, it's like done in a rush. So this doesn't mean that I'm judging these entire games as off of these two expansions, but these are the points that I'm making is like, this is the momentum we have in the West, is waiting for the next expansion to hopefully make this game better. If we're not talking RuneScape and the couple of other games that we do have in circulation. Whereas the East not only doesn't have to wait just for expansions to come out for their games, right? They can play older versions of the game. Like a Phantasy Star 2 NGS player can go back and play 2 if he wants. Or he can go play 1 if he wants, right? Or a Lineage player can decide to play it on his phone or on his PC. You see what I'm saying? Like, these are very intuitive aspects of gaming and technology that the West is acting like we're fucking idiots about. Like, the whole PC to mobile thing is a great example. Yes, does Korea make a bunch of pay-to-win, money-making mobile titles? Yes. It's not all they make, though. They make plenty of actual mobile versions of the online games that I'm talking about. And they do really well. So why doesn't the West do the same? They did. With RuneScape. You see what I'm saying? It's like the one company that's learning it has like the most Chinese influence, I should add, by the way, because they've been acquired by like 3 Chinese companies. But anyway, the most Chinese influenced Western company seems to know the most about the Eastern market and copies the most off of them successfully. Meanwhile, WoW's over here still selling pets and shit. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, man, Blizzard, what the fuck are you guys doing? What the fuck are you guys doing, bro? Lineage 1 is a great game. I remember installing 6 CDs to play it. Tangent. Sorry about the kids in the background, guys. I live next to a school. And I have to have a window up because it's hot. Which it never gets hot here, but it's hot now. Tangent, Death of a Game, PSU. I think I will do a separate one for it just because I think that PSU has more direct roots into what is considered the modern ARPG Japanese game today. Anybody in chat, feel free to agree or disagree with me, but I found that on my PSO video, most of you seem to agree. And I didn't make that point heard enough in that video, so I think that people kind of thought that I was saying Monster Hunter's DNA is based on PSO and not PSU. To be clear, I played PSU online more than I played PSO. Because I had an Xbox at the time. A 360 or whatever. So I was able to go back and play it cross whatever the heck the thing was called. I was able to play PSU on my Xbox. I know that without a fact. I was not able to play PSO on the new Xbox. So PSU, I think, and many people here will probably agree that most of Monster Hunter's early games would look at PSU and be like, yeah, this is kind of what we want to make. Well, now Monster Hunter World and Rise and whatever else, all these different recent games are doing amazing. They're selling over 20 million copies. So I think that maybe a video for PSU is warranted, considering I think that Japan's success with Monster Hunter World and Rise, and also even to a certain extent, a lesser extent, you know, games like Dark Souls and Elden Ring. I think they have PSU to thank. I really do. In some way, shape, or form. Maybe you can be like, yeah, but how much is Dark Souls? Okay, fair. Maybe it learned a lot more from another game that's Japanese. Guess what? Every single Japanese RPG creator and ARPG creator knows what Phantasy Star is. Because a lot of Westerners aren't aware of Phantasy Star as a Final Fantasy-like franchise because they think it was just Phantasy Star Online. It actually wasn't. It was like Ultima. It was like Final Fantasy. It actually was a very, if not the most successful RPG franchise of the late 90s, mid-90s. So whenever Phantasy Star Online came out, it wasn't in a vacuum. It's one of the things that drives me mad about the early games is people always act like they were made in vacuums. Ultima was the most successful RPG series of the time. Phantasy Star was the biggest Eastern RPG series of the time. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like, what they did is they took these very successful RPGs, Neverwinter Online, based on the Neverwinter series. You know what I'm saying? Like, they knew that, hey, let's take these very popular RPGs and let's make online games out of them. Right? There's just World and Rise lately. Monhoon is taking his time with Wilds. Is that because Wilds hasn't launched yet? Or what do you mean? World is the one that recently sold 25 million copies. I saw people complaining about Rise, but also liking aspects of it more than World, but it seems like World is more successful globally, so I'm not really sure. But one thing's, you know, not like debatable, and that's that the impact that Phantasy Star as a whole has had on the Japanese market and RPG market. It's formed it, basically. Right? Like ARPGs, specifically. Yeah, World just recently talked about 25 million, so but I thought people liked Rise more. But oh, okay, it came out on the Switch to fill time. Oh, okay. That makes more sense. It's insane that they can sell more RPGs on console at that rate. Wow. Anyway, I'm pretty fucking exhausted, honestly. I'm gonna head out. I gotta finish my script today on Rogue Company, and I'm pretty much done already, so. Oh wait, there's something that I wanted to show you guys. First, I'll just say this real quick. Albion Online opened sales for the European server, which is kind of crazy to hear. I didn't even think that they'd be opening another server. And I thought they already had European servers, so I'm confused by that. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, basically what I wanted to react to really quickly. You know what? Yeah, I'll be right back. Let me go to the restroom because I want to react to this. It's worthy of it. Alright, let's do it. Okay, so I wanted to react to this stupid article I saw, honestly, because I felt like it. But I've seen a lot of the articles that this guy's written before, Tyler F.M. Edwards, and honestly, they've all been pretty shit. And one thing I notice a lot about like places like Massively Overpowered, especially these days, compared to back when they were on Joystick, is that this place basically operates off of needing the publishers and developers that they are still making modern games to still want to like work with them and show them stuff. So what I'm trying to say is that they write fluff pieces like this. Sorry, like for example, here's the very first thing he says. While it was arguably overdue, I found it was a tremendously positive addition to the game of New World to add a dungeon finder. To be clear, the entire concept of New World was literally originally supposed to be a world that you crafted yourself. How do I know this? It's there. They got rid of that because we told them it sucked. I'm not even kidding. That was like the real reason they changed it, was because we told them that it sucked. And instead of improving it, they just got rid of the entire system and turned it into whatever it is currently now, which is basically a theme park that functions in some ways kind of like a sandbox. So to Tyler's point here, like if it's just a theme park, does anyone care if it has a group finder? Probably not, right? But the problem is that it was never supposed to just be a theme. It's in the name, New World. It was supposed to be a new world. And the problem with having a group finder is that what part of the world is the group finder servicing? None of it. It doesn't service the world. It services the players in the world and teleports them to other places so they can commit their, complete their content unbothered or whatever. Now, the issue is that now there's no need to actually go to the dungeons in the game and be in those worlds. You can just sit in the city and just queue up, which now actually has reduced the content in your games. Which means that if you were any smart, Tyler, like you would probably figure that out for a game like New World, right? Because it's not the same kind of game as WoW is and these other games. It doesn't help. Game has one, right? Maybe like 2 or 3 dungeons. Like, Why do we need a group finder? Because nobody's playing the game, you dumbass. It's not because they was helping the system. They came up with a cross-world group finder because nobody's playing the fucking game anymore. And there's like 3 dungeons. So why do you even need a queue for that? There's barely even any fucking content to play on the group finder. Which is how you know that they don't even know what they're doing anymore. They just decided to make a theme park in retrospect. And for people thinking you're just being mean. Look at their peak numbers. These are horrible. These are absolutely horrible. For Amazon's AAA fucking big 100 million engine inspired game? You think that Amazon sees this as a success? And what planet? You know what happens when I move this? That was the peak. That's what they got. This is what they're at now. They haven't been this low since before the expansion was going to drop. And there's no expansion in sight. So what does that mean? It means it's going to keep dropping. Does a group finder help the population increase? No. Just keeps it emerging faster. See why shit like that, for me, it's just kind of like, cool. Like you threw a band-aid on there, but what the fuck are you actually trying to fix? You're not fixing anything. You know? Oh yeah, I was gonna show you guys this trailer. That's what I was gonna show you guys. Enough shitting on that. I was gonna show you guys this Brighter Shores trailer, which is made by the I think the oldest brother. Don't quote me on that. Or maybe is he the middle brother? Is Andrew Goer the middle brother? Well, I don't know why that bothers me so much that I can't remember, but it's Andrew, and Andrew has basically come out with a new fucking game, which is first off, they like disappeared into the sunset, the Gower brothers. The people didn't even know what the fuck happened to them, and then guess what? Suddenly, out of nowhere, Q3 this year, they're planning on launching a free-to-play, and I say they, I mean Andrew. He's planning on launching a free-to-play MMO, and this is what it looks like. Before I start that, sorry, let me read someone's comments in chat. Oh, nice, there's somebody I can make fun of. Justin Krezelak. Why is this telling me I'm subscribed when I'm clearly not? You spelled clearly wrong. You spelled it clearly, which, like, I don't even know if I should continue to read your messages if you can't even spell clearly. Clearly is not difficult, buddy. It's clear with the R, then you put the L after so it can actually be Lee. Clearly. Hey, you're learning something. Maybe I can teach you some more. The dude is botting the hell out of YouTube. Don't spend money on fake subs, kids reported. Guy's got a booger in his nose buying bot subs. If I'm buying bot subs, then why did I just lose 13,000 of them? I am the worst sub buyer in history if I'm buying subs and I'm losing subs. So your argument doesn't even fucking... If this is the best that you could do, man, I feel really bad for you. I can tell you put a lot of effort into the 6 messages you typed, then I can tell you ran away because you didn't want to hear my response. Oh yeah, that's the thing, John, is you know me. I've seen you here around enough, as most people do. I like when people like talk shit to me. People act like it's gonna bother me, or that, oh, I can get to him today. It's I was born on the internet, guys. Nothing you could say to me, Justin, will ever do anything because you're not smart enough, intelligent enough, nor have anything worthwhile to say that you could ever make me feel any kind of way. You see what I'm saying? The only thing I can feel is laughter because I know that you'll never say anything of value. And you know that too, which is why you're not going to respond. I don't even have to ban guys like that. They ban themselves because they're so scared of conflict. On the internet, in the chat room. Relax, buddy. No, but hey, look, I got these, but don't worry. There's a screen here. Nothing's gonna happen to you, okay? You're safe. You guys are fun.
So you want to join the Hopeport Town Guard? Then here's what you need to know. We're not just about fighting fire toads. We also investigate potential threats and help out the people we meet. All recruits will learn how to use magic, alchemy, and whatever this thing is. You will also be trained in essential survival skills, like fishing, blacksmithing, and assembling dinosaurs.
Okay.
So, set sail for brighter shores today.
You know what? I might reach out to him. Oh yeah. I'm gonna reach out to Andrew. I know somebody that knows him. And I would like to talk to him. So hopefully my content will come. Man, this is what I've been asking for. It's more games like this. Fuck going action RPG when we can't even make good 2D fucking ARPGs and online ones. Like RuneScape's still the best one that we have. And RuneScape needs help. This is good. Andrew's the one that came up with a lot of the ideas for like questing and the idea of questing too. So like before people think this is just a Gower brother taking credit, this is the Gower brother. The other one's more technically savvy, but I think this is the one that has all the design choices. Now, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on that. That's what I thought. Yeah? That is how you do a trailer. That's how you do a trailer. Like, damn. Dude, what the... I have been complaining about, like, for the people watching me here, I've been complaining about trailers in the MMO online RPG space since the channel was started. Because they all fucking suck. So many of these trailers suck. They try to feed you all this CGI shit, which they have low budget, so they can't even compete. And then they try to show you like some gameplay interspersed, and the gameplay sucks. And it's because they don't know what players like, they don't know what players find fun in online RPGs, and they don't know what to focus on. And for people saying, how do you know all this stuff? Do you know that like actually for 3 of the major indie RPGs that came out, online RPGs, I actually gave them their videographers. Like this is a true story. I've never told this story before, but fuck it, I'll just brag about it today. There's 3 major games that are like indie titles that I literally talked to guys that I knew in videography and said, hey, go work with these guys, man. They don't know what the fuck. And those guys went and worked with those companies and made them better trailers. I'm just saying, those were just community members who just told me, hey, I'd like to try my hand at some shit. And I was just like, fuck it, all right. They showed me some stuff. I was like, this is pretty good. Sent it to somebody. Somebody was like, sure. Next thing you know, dude sending me a message, hey, thanks, nerd. They hired me. And it was like, I don't want credit for any of that shit. Like, I'm bringing it up to say that, like, that was just passionate members of the community who knew how to make better trailers than and for people wondering why are you being so mug about it, it's because knowing what is fun is a skill in design. It's a skill. It's a skill that I'm pretty arrogant about, but it's a skill. So like knowing how to like manifest it, show it, and make people care about fun is important. So a good like a good videographer in the online RPG space is gonna know about that kind of stuff. That video I just saw was entertaining. Told me what the game's about, what the world's about, showed me what you can do, showed me different places, showed me players doing their own thing, showed me players working together. Flowed nicely, was a quick trailer. I mean, I have no complaints. I'm excited to see whatever. Brighter Shores? I'm excited to see what Brighter Shores has. I find it funny that he called you, oh no wait, Alfonso. Is that your dog in the picture, dude? He looks so cute. Just don't feed the trolls. The thing is, and you know, it's kind of like the Punisher. You know what I'm saying? It's like Punisher is a criminal. I get that it's cool that he's like killing criminals and shit, but he's still a criminal. He's just a vigilante, right? He's a kind of criminal. Vigilante. He's a criminal. Make no mistake, I am a troll. I am a shit poster. I have been doing this longer than most of the people who try to do it these days even knew what it was. And like, there's one thing that I pull rank on, besides MMO, like being a no-lifer, having no life at MMOs. That's one thing I pull rank on. I was on Newgrounds. I was on Funny Junk. I was on the forums back then. I was in IRC chats. I was on MSN. I was in Hotmail. Wherever you imagined, I was on something off. I was a part of the Goon Squad. I've been a part of pretty much every horrible, shitty internet group you can almost imagine, right? Like back then, right? We were more harmless back then in the sense that we were just edgy. So coming up on the internet, while virtual worlds taught me how to socialize and stuff like that, the internet is what like taught me about the world. Taught me about culture, taught me about meeting different people. And one thing you realize from doing that is that not everyone is going to like you. Meeting so many different types of people and personalities that a lot of people, maybe, like how it was explained to me was always helpful. It's like if there's a room of 100 people, 50 of them off the bat are just not going to fuck with you. Just off the rip, right? Like maybe like 25 more of them are going to be indifferent towards you, and maybe 25 like you up, right? So if you think about it like that, it's like, well, you know that like most people aren't just going to fuck about whatever that you have to say, or you know what I'm saying? Like most of the time. Excuse me. So whenever you make content, you get a lot more like views and comments and people that are going to be more inclined to want to troll you. The thing is though, is that I've had a couple of trolls so far that I've never talked about before that were really good. I'm talking, these guys brought up certain arguments, they said certain things in a way where they just tricked me. Like, I've had some good trolls. But the thing is, I'm just gonna level with you guys, we're talking like a small amount. Out of all of the thousands and thousands of comments that I've gotten, I've maybe had like 4 good, not comments, I'm talking trolls. Like, they made me buy into something and then trick me. I think trolling is kind of dying, if I'm being. And I know this sounds very edgy, like fucking Last Mohican shit here, Crimea River. It doesn't really matter, it's just funny. Yeah, I kind of feel like trolling is dying, and it's because trolling became our long. It's a bit of a misunderstanding I notice constantly when I tell people that I'm a troll. They'll look at me and they'll kind of be like if they're not seeing me in person, they'll have this reaction on their computer. You're a troll? Like, because they think, how come you're not insulting people? How come you're not just like being mean? It's like, well, to be clear, like I was there when we were coming up with the term troll, and we never meant it that way. We never meant it to be about like abusing people, thing like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we just meant it to be about like having fun, like tricking people, funny shit. That's what trolling was. Think about it. Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up was like peak trolling. It's in the early 2000s. I'm gonna watch that video right now and I'm gonna show you guys. Is there anything really wrong with the video? I actually like this song. I had a rule that if any time I ever got Rick rolled, I would watch the entirety of the song and sing it. And so my friends would come up with like spoofs, fucking fake links. They would try to trick me however they do. Sing it.
We're no strangers to love. You know the rules, and so do I. Our full commitment's what I'm thinking. let you down. Never gonna run around and desert you. Never gonna make you cry. Never gonna say goodbye. Never gonna tell a lie and hurt you. We've known each other for so long. Your heart's been aching, but you're too shy to say it. Inside we both know what's been going on. We know the game and we're gonna play it. And if you ask me how I'm feeling, don't tell me you're too blind to see. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert going on. We know the game and we're gonna play it. And if you ask me how I'm feeling, don't tell me you're too blind to see. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you. Never gonna make you cry, never gonna say goodbye, never gonna tell a lie and hurt you. Never gonna give and hurt.
Skip ahead. This is like, you know, the amount of gifs I've seen from this one.
Never gonna give, never gonna give. Never gonna give, never gonna give.
This is what trolling is to me. That's why, like, I get where you're coming from and where people just being kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Like that. I find it funny that, yeah, I mean, I call myself a nerd. And if somebody ever uses insult, then I immediately doesn't mean. I'm the kind of person where it's like, unless you show me a picture, talk about physical, you've basically disqualified yourself from. It seems weird because it's like, wait, I would like insult you. Look, talk about you. No, I mean, literally, my brain functions in a way where if somebody says something about my physical appearance, but I don't know how they look, it literally doesn't mean anything at all. My brain completely disqualifies. I don't know, maybe that just happened growing up or just over time being on the internet so much. It's kind of like the same thing with martial arts and like, it's like whenever people are like, "I'll kick ass," it's like, show me a video of fighting or show me a video of tag. Otherwise, I don't give a at all. You can't show me it. Imagine how afraid or insulting. But that's why you gotta know the audience. Words keep getting cut out. Is anyone else hearing that? You know what? It could be because my volume is too low. In fact, once. Audacity. I look like I'm shining, by the way, guys. I'm not actually sweating. Here we go. Dude, my volume got turned. Alright. Alright, well that makes a lot more sense. I hope it hasn't been that way for too long, but yeah, basically my volume, I don't understand it, but you know how like if you click that setting where it says you allow certain apps to change your volume? Well, I click that thing and so sometimes apps will change the volume, but I don't know why. I don't know what app. I don't know how. So anytime I open up OBS, it seems like my Audacity's like vocal settings get lowered. I'm not really sure why, to be honest. I felt like I was quiet during the music as well, to be honest. When I was looking at my peaking levels and shit, I was like, why am I fucking so low? And I'm actually trying to like enunciate. One unrelated question. What do you think when games sell out their visual consistency for sexy, funny cosmetics? I mean, I'm gonna sound old as fuck, but keep that shit out of my worlds, personally. And my reasoning for it is just like, if I'm playing a world to be immersed in that world, like for example, if I'm playing Final Fantasy 14 and I suddenly see somebody show up as Master Chief, I'm not gonna lie, I'm never gonna like that. And I know people are gonna hate me for that. And I know people love Guild Wars 2's like hodgepodge fucking like cosmetic style. I don't. I'm sorry, I don't. Yeah, I mean, you guys don't need to hear me sing Rickroll. It's all good. As long as you heard the Rickroll. That's the main part. Never gonna give you up. Words, alright, got that part. Okay. Well, I'm glad that I fixed it in time, but I have to go now. So I fixed it in time to leave. I stayed a little bit longer because I felt like talking about stupid fucking article. It just sucks that like so much of like virtual world writing is kind of like restricted at the moment, and you might be wondering why not. People can write about whatever they want. They can, but nobody's gonna fucking read it. So yeah, unfortunately. But anyway, it was nice chatting with everybody. Good to talk to everybody. Hope everyone's been all right. Hope you have a good rest of your week. I'm gonna focus on finishing Rogue Company today. And yeah, the super silly ones are just too much for me because it just takes me away from being whatever world I'm in. And look, for people saying, how does that matter? If you were role playing with a group of 5 people and one dude showed up as a fucking Murloc, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I'm an okay role player, and I feel like he would probably make me break my immersion. Like, see what I'm saying? And that's how I view these like video games too. Is like, if a Murloc dude shows up next to me, then yeah, he is breaking my immersion because Murloc aren't characters in this game. You know what I'm saying? Like as an example, and it like takes me out of the world because I'm like, how much money did he spend on it? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I don't want to be thinking about that kind of shit. And that's what I always think about when I see skins like that. I'm always like, how much money this guy spend? Like, da 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 da. It's like, anyway. I guess that is only acceptable with Friendly Fire. I mean, I have been passionate about Friendly Fire for ages, and people always fucking look like they've seen a ghost whenever I bring it up. I know it can fucking scare people, but most of Albion's issues could be solved with Friendly Fire. Just saying. Just saying. But anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Hit the music.